Hi, hello everybody. It is now day 3 of my recent blog that I'm doing about the fact that the government have taken me, just like they have with loads and loads of other people in the country, off personal independent payments. Now, here we have in front of us is an antibiotic, which I have to take not all the time, because obviously I would never recommend or even suggest that people take antibiotics. All right? I mean, your body should be able to, unless there's something seriously wrong with you, be able to combat any infection that you have. So if you are put on antibiotics, then, just check with your doctor as to why you've been given them. Now, for me, this is one that I have been on quite a lot in my life. And the reason I've been given this is basically because of the flare-ups on my legs, which may or may not be linked to my bile acid malabsorption disability. Now, they really, really, really hurt, and you can see all over my legs there is previous evidence where what has happened is, as they have tried to heal on their own without any additional medical intervention, that they have scarred. I try very hard not to shave my legs at all, because I find that any way of trying to remove hair from my legs makes my legs more prone to infections. So I have, for anyone asks, yes, I've waxed, I've shaved, I've had them plucked. I've used practically every single hair removal cream that's on the market, and this is what happens. So some of these are ingrown hairs, some of them are heat lumps, some of them are what look like they could be midget bites from the garden, because I try to be outside whenever I can. But the bottom line is, wouldn't be my video without a yawn. Despite the fact that I have an elevated white blood cell count, I do not heal without medical intervention. So, unfortunately, yes, these have started to flare up again, and I've had these now for over 8 weeks. So I say to myself, okay, if I've had infections in my legs for any more than 8 to 12 weeks, then it looks like I'm going to have to go on antibiotics. But anything less than that, I just don't bother, because I try to allow my body to do its job. But I am literally at the point where my skin just feels like somebody has stuck red hot needles into it. And all of these little lumps and bumps that I have on my legs, they always seem to be on the inner side of my leg, not very much on the outer. I mean, there's a few down there. But as you can see, the most of my leg, this side, is quite clear. And if I go over to the second leg, again, they're at the back. They're not at the side. At the side is completely flawless to a degree. And yet, internally, they are literally all over. So I don't know why I always seem to get them on the inside of my legs. Whether it's because when I sleep like this, so I sweat more, or, friction. I really couldn't tell you, I'm not a doctor. But they are killing me at the moment. And so I've been put on this wonderful antibiotic, and I have to take 4 a day. So, yes, when I am told that I'm no longer disabled because I've managed to adapt my life to my disability, well, then that's a bit of a contradictory comment to make, as it's still a disability, and I would never recommend that people be on antibiotics. So for somebody like me who probably ends up on antibiotics, if I allowed myself to, for argument's sake, I mean, I've had it where I've been on these for 6 months solid, and that is not normal. So to be on antibiotics anywhere between 1 to 8 times within a year, again, nobody should have to be on antibiotics that many times. I mean, I've just picked those numbers because I've just constantly lost count as to how many times I have had this prescription of medication, sorry, yawning again, due to flare-ups on my legs, which unfortunately because they are open source, and the Department of Work and Pensions are trying to say I can go back to work. I'm not trying to use this as an excuse, but open source with water, don't mix, okay? Anything where these infections potentially could get worse isn't somewhere you're going to want to be working. And one of the problems I did have, although it isn't on my medical records, is I used to scuba dive and I also used to canoe. And one year I was really, really ill. I had mild hypothermia. I've had that about 3 to 4 times in my life. But there may have been an issue of me potentially catching Weil's disease, which basically is from the urine of rodents such as rats, mice, voles, shrews, etc. They all kind of come under the similar sort of family tree from their urine, basically. So it was horrible. It was like I constantly had this flu-like symptom. And everyone kept saying to me, have you gone to see the doctor? Have you gone to the hospital? How do you know you haven't got Weil's disease, from canoeing and scuba diving? And I was like, look, I'll be fine. And I literally must have been lousy for a good 6 months. But I still didn't go and see my doctor because I was like, well, if it's that bad and I end up in hospital, fair enough, but I don't want to be stressing about it. And so, like I said, being put on antibiotics, any type of antibiotics, constantly within a year isn't good. So at the moment, I am still painstakingly trying to wade out the fact that the Department of Work and Pensions have got to reissue me my letter, so I can't read it in the format they sent it. And what I'm then doing is I am doing this jigsaw whilst I am at home, just to kind of keep me busy. And like I've explained before, if anyone knows me that well, yes, I used to self-harm. I don't do it anymore. And one of the reasons I don't do it anymore is because I try to keep myself busy. It doesn't mean under any circumstances that the thoughts are never not there. It also doesn't mean that at times, I haven't contemplated self-harming. But like I've said before, and I'll say it again, if I really, really was serious about wanting to check out early, it would be really easy for me to do that. The thing that is keeping me grounded is my children. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and I will say it again. If anything ever happened to my kids, who are my lifeline, they are what I live for, then I wouldn't have anything to live for. At the end of the day, it is just money, but it's insulting to tell someone, whoever this person may be, not even me, I'm just talking in general, that 6 months ago they were classed as disabled by the government, and now all of a sudden they're being told they're not. Well, I'm sorry, you can't do that to people. Well, you can because you're the government, but people then need to be saying, well, hang on a minute, this is complete bullshit. My leg hasn't grown back in the last 6 months. I haven't been taken off chemotherapy in the last 6 months. I haven't been taken off dialysis in the last 6 months. And even then, if you are somebody with an organ transplant, for example, it still will affect you every single day of your life. I have friends or associates that have had organ transplants, And if I have a cough or a cold or an infection that could potentially be passed on to them, I'm not allowed to see them. Because what can happen is the medication they have to take every single day to basically prevent their body rejecting the organ could cause the organ to fail. So to say to somebody, oh yeah, just because you've had an organ transplant, you've now got a new liver, you've now got a new kidney, you've now got a new heart or a new set of lungs, you can now potentially go back and live the rest of your life normally, isn't going to happen. They are constantly having to be hyper vigilant of catching any illnesses that could potentially, kill them. So I'm not saying my illness or disability is going to kill me or kill anybody. I recently spoke to someone who said the problem with mental health is that it's a very selfish illness. It's an illness that affects you, but it doesn't just affect you, it affects everybody around you. And, and if there was a cure, not prevention, but an actual cure, then I'm pretty sure people would take it. But the money they give you, I mean, it is a joke. It's not like you're being given millions and millions of pounds. You're being given what the government perceive is the right amount of money that you need to live on a weekly basis, which you are not getting because you're unable to work. If I was able to work full-time and go back to doing the job I used to do before my illness deteriorated and like my mental health and everything got worse, I was on, at the time, 10 years ago, £10.50 an hour. And I used to work 8 hours a day, 7 days a week almost. Does the government really seriously think that I would not want to go back to doing that job when all they pay me is not even half of what I used to be on? But instead, due to my illness and disability, I can't. I mean, I used to, but like I said, it has got worse over time, and I have to accept the fact that I can't do the job that I did 10 years ago. It doesn't mean I can't do anything, it just means that it is not feasible for me to work because I would never be able to commit, due to my illness and my disability, to working those sorts of hours. Plus, the one thing I am still is a full-time carer for my disabled son, who is currently being homeschooled. So that, on top of my own personal battles that I have to deal with on a daily basis, the only work realistically I could do would be from home. It wouldn't actually be physically integrating within a workspace environment or with the general public. So I will keep you posted. Hopefully you've had time to look at this picture and study it. What I'll now do is quickly turn it over. I was going to do that earlier. And the one thing I like about these jigsaws, I've got a few of these in storage, is they actually tell you the names of all of the animals on the back. So I'm hoping to get this finished. And it's one of the things I will teach my son. But as I have noticed on here, this is quite old because all of the animals on there are traditional British and sort of Scottish animals. So you have got the red squirrel and you have got the pine martens, which are very, very few and far between now within the United Kingdom. So thank you once again. I will keep you posted, and we will see how long it takes for a proper decision to be made. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.